Hello guys, my name is Evans and welcome to this video tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to continue looking at the Information Technology Specimen Paper 2 for 2017. In the last video we ended with step number 11, and in this video we're going to start a new section which is on spreadsheets. And so the scenario is that in your work for the University of Tawara, you are going to use spreadsheet to analyze data about students and tutors. So different faculties within the university use different platforms. Some use Macs and some use PCs, and those faculties using PCs use different vendor software packages. Okay, so the University of Tawara logo includes an italic red sans serif font on a pale blue background. Okay, so it also uses these styles for all of its products. Okay, so I'm sure just by reading this section here, it gives an idea that you're going to create a style so that whenever you're called to use or format your text, you're going just to apply that style that you have created, similar with what you guys would be doing in document production at IGCSE, where you create house style specifications. Okay, so currency values in Tawara are in dollar. Okay, this is the dollar sign, and you're supposed to apply it to 2 decimal places. Okay, step number 12, using suitable software, spreadsheet software, open and examine the file with the data in the files. So these are the files in question. So we are supposed to open these files: course CSV, faculty CSV, qualification CSV, as well as tutor CSV. Okay, so in the most appropriate file, okay, so first of all, let's just go ahead and open these, and then we're going to come back to this section. Okay, so I have already the files downloaded, and the files in questions are course, faculty, qualification, tutor. So these are the files here. I'm just going to open them all at once. Okay, so we need to examine the contents of these files. So let's start. This is tutor file. Notice how the data is arranged. So I'm just going to enlarge the cell sizes. Okay, so notice how this data is arranged here. Okay, so we have also qualification, enlarge it, that's fine. You have faculty, that should be fine as well. Yeah, and lastly course, so let's just give it that way. Okay, so that is perfectly fine. Okay, so one thing that you notice is that these are CSV files, and they are basically text files, and they can be imported easily into other applications. And yeah, the data here, you check for the format of the data, you check for the data type. Okay, that's important. You can also check for other things, but I like to check for that, the columns, the consistency of data, the format, like for example the date. How is the data arranged? Do we have any file that has got the date here? We've got the file with the year, okay, which is this one here. So you check for the format, how is the year arranged and stuff like that. For example, again, you've got file with contract. Notice it's just got decimal places here. Sometimes you may be told to set these to 2 decimal places, to 3 decimal places, but you examine the files in question, and then you are able to make conclusive or rather let me just say informative decisions, so to say, about these files. Okay, now I'm going to go to the question paper. So in the most appropriate file, create a header containing text, the text available courses last edited by. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay, so available courses last edited by, copy that, followed by your name, center number, and candidate number. Now we've not been told which file from these 4 that we've opened that we're supposed to actually open, but you're supposed to use the appropriate file. So in other words, this text that you are trying to apply should make sense if you had to apply it in one of these. So for example, this one is called available courses, and we've got a file called course.csv. This one is a faculty qualification tutor. And the most appropriate file is actually the course.csv. Even just by looking inside this file, you'll be able to tell that it is actually about the courses. So you know code, course title, faculty code, and stuff like that. So this one is a list of available courses. So we're supposed to place this in the header. Okay, we've not been told whether to place this in the center of the header or what. So just go ahead and put it in the header for the file. So go to insert and then header and footer, and just right here I'm going to paste it just there. Okay, now you're going to add edited by, let's say, Chikasa Evans, and it's going to be ZM 556 and 0001. Okay, so that is perfectly fine. Okay, the next thing that you are supposed to do is go to just give me a moment, guys. Somebody's knocking at the door. Right, so I'm back, guys. Sorry, I had to attend to somebody. Okay, so yeah, so what you're supposed to do after you've put in your available courses and all, so I'm going to put it just like that so that it's on one line. Okay, that looks somewhat neat. Now let's go back to the question paper. Step number 13 says insert a formula in cell D2 which uses the most appropriate file to look for the name of the faculty. So again, just by the name itself, you're talking about, it's giving you an idea of what file you're supposed to open. That's why it's important that the file name is actually describing something that it is holding. Okay, I mean what it is all about. It's pointless for you to have a file on bananas and then it is given the name oranges. It's like confusing the enemy, yeah? Okay, so your file name should be descriptive of what data or information it is holding. Okay, so in our case, we are using this file faculty, and we are going to retrieve the name of the faculty and put it in cell D2. So just looking at this file, the courses in cell D2, here it's written faculty, and you're supposed to extract the data from the faculty CSV file. So what you need to do now, remember, you're bringing this data from a separate file. So of course you're going to use a lookup function to do that, but how you choose between HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP depends on how your data is arranged. So you go to file. Notice that the data is arranged when where you have more rows than columns. Okay, so you have 2 columns and you have got 18 rows, and so you vertically this data is arranged vertically, so you're supposed to use a VLOOKUP. Okay, you use HLOOKUP when data is arranged in a horizontal manner, like data is arranged going this way. Okay, VLOOKUP, you use it when data is arranged going this way. Data is vertical, so that's why we use vertical lookup. Okay, so what we're supposed to do is to actually retrieve the data, comparing the code, and then we retrieve the faculty name. Okay, so in this course CSV file, we have the faculty code, and in the faculty CSV file, we have got the faculty code here. So we compare these 2 columns. Where there is a match, we retrieve the corresponding or the adjacent faculty name. Okay, so in this case, we start with this one. So this is equal to, so click on VLOOKUP, and your lookup value, of course, is going to be this one, C2. Now C2 is supposed to be relative. Okay, because we want, when we replicate this formula, we want the values to automatically adjust. Okay, for example, when you drag and drop this formula, we want it to go to C4, C5, C6, C7, C8, and so on and so forth, and retrieve the corresponding faculty name. Okay, so this is why we have to make it as relative referencing. Otherwise, if this name was just if this was just one value and there was no need for replication or adjusting the values, then we can use absolute referencing. Okay, so the table array in our case, so you just need to go to this file, drag and select this. Okay, that is your table array. Notice up here that is faculty.csv, so that's the file name, and the array is actually from A2 to B18, and this is supposed to be absolute referencing because we are not having any data outside A2 and B18. Okay, the column index is the column that must be returned. So in our case, the column that must be returned is column B, and column B, you start counting from the first column. The initial value is 1, so column A is 1 and column B is 2, so the column index number is 2. And the range lookup is actually the value that must be returned. It's a logical value that must be returned. True for an approximate match, and red for false for an exact match. Okay, so you use true when you have like ranges. Okay, for example, from 2 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25. When you have ranges, then you can use true. But when you have exact matches that you're looking for, then you're supposed to use false. Okay, so in our case, we're going to use false. Alternatively, you can use 0 to represent false. Okay, so with that said, so this is what goes in your VLOOKUP, and you can confirm the formula just on the on this side here, and mine is perfectly fine. So let's run it and notice that it retrieves agriculture. Okay, so I'm going to make it to increase the column width so that agriculture is shown here. So that is the value that has been retrieved. So for those of you that not so much good friends with formulas, you're supposed to get used to the formulas. Okay, you need to know how to create this formula just by typing it. It's very important. Okay, next we're going to step number 14. Insert a formula in cell F2 which uses the most appropriate file to look up for the name of the qualification. So in our case, again, we have qualification that we're looking for, and we have a qualification file here, and we're supposed to retrieve from this one here. So what I'm going to do is to go back to my Excel thing, and so in cell F2, that's where we're inserting this formula. So F2 or F2 is supposed to be this one, which says level, and we're supposed to retrieve the qualification here. So go again, examine the qualification file, find out if it is VLOOKUP or HLOOKUP is supposed to use. In our case, we're supposed to use VLOOKUP. Okay, so go ahead and click on VLOOKUP here. The array, rather the lookup value is supposed to be BS. Now, one thing that I must mention here, guys, is that it's important when you're looking up some information that the file that you're looking up to, the data is actually sorted. Okay, this is something, of course, that I'm mentioning about first time. It's important that you have your data sorted, maybe in ascending order of something, because oftentimes if you do not have the data sorted, sometimes when the VLOOKUP is going through some values, of course, it encounters the first value, and it assumes it has found a match without even completing the search, going down the table. Okay, it's important, of course, that you have your data sorted. There are other reasons that I may not even mention, but of course, like in our case, this looks perfectly fine. Even if we don't sort it out, it may work. Okay, it may work, but it's just important that we sort out this information that we have. Let's try to run it without sorting it, and then let's see how it's going to run. Okay, so what am I doing? I don't need to get that. Okay, sorry. So it's supposed to go back to the cost table, and from here you are supposed to pick up the lookup value, which is a level code. And may I also say that even the earlier one that we did, the VLOOKUP that we did for the faculty, Also, it's important that you sort the lookup value in the lookup file. You sort that in an order. Okay, that's very important. But for now, this will work out perfectly fine because the data is arranged somewhat in a fairly good way. Okay, so the lookup value is this one, E2, and the table array, of course, we have to go to that file, the qualification file, and get this. Okay, just that. And the maximum index is 2, rather the column index is 2. Okay, and the lookup range is supposed to be false. Okay, and that should be perfectly fine, and it returns that file, that name of the qualification, Bachelor of Science. So for BSc is Bachelor of Science, and we'll see what it will return for the other ones, and then we can tell if we've gotten it. Okay, so let's go back to the question paper, and step number 15 says replicate the formulas in placed in steps 13 and 14 for all courses. So you come back to the file here, and here, so we want to replicate for this one. What you can do is to drag, click here, hold and drag down there, or alternatively just double click. Just take your cursor at here, the bottom corner here, right corner, and when it changes to that sign, double click, and automatically Excel populates that for you. Take it also to Bachelor of Science. Once it changes to the black plus sign, double click, and automatically Excel does. So you can confirm whether it has picked up the correct qualifications. For example, a BA is Bachelor of Arts, that's good. A MA is Masters of Arts, and MSc is Masters of Science, that's perfectly fine. MEng is Masters of Engineering, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this one is perfectly fine. Okay, so I hope we are almost done. Okay, so last one is step number 16, which says apply the university house style to row 1. So go back to university house style. The house style is actually mentioned here. It says the University of Tawara logo includes an italic red sans serif font. So the first one is supposed to be italic. It's supposed to be foreground, supposed to be red. It's a sans serif font, and it has got a pale blue background. Okay, so it also uses these styles for all of its products. Okay, so what we need to do is to create a style. Okay, so we're going to create a style which we're going to be using throughout. Okay, it's up to you if you want to create a cell style. Okay, that's really up to you. So let's go ahead, maybe let's create a cell style. So create new cell style, and this style is going to be everything is general. So go to format, and under font we're supposed to make sure that a sans serif font is selected. It's supposed to be the color red, and it's supposed to be the background. So the font size, at least let's make it font size maybe something like 14 or 16. Okay, because it's something like a heading. And then the other thing is supposed to be italic, and under the background you're supposed to make sure that it's pale blue. So that is somewhat pale blue. Okay, so so we have this. Let me just verify if there is any other thing that we're supposed to do. So we have italic, red, sans serif, and pale blue background. Okay, that should be fine. So again, red, italic, is a sans serif, and it's supposed to be pale blue, and that should be fine. So this style, we are going to call it Tawara house style. Okay, and say okay. So we're supposed to apply this to row 1. So select row 1. So we just get the actual values and apply this style. Okay, so let's go with here. Okay, so let's modify the style. The background did get to be applied. Okay, format, border, let's see, it's supposed to be fill, actually, not border. So fill is supposed to be this one. Okay, so this is pale blue and apply it. Okay, and so we have a few that is applied there, so that is perfectly fine. Did I select? I didn't select code, pardon me. So add code as well. So select the table and apply this. Okay, and that looks perfectly fine. The next thing that we are supposed to do, I don't know if I should have changed the I don't know if I should have changed the size of the the table, rather the column 1. Let me just check, guys. Just give me a moment. It's important that you counter check this. Okay, that's fine. So I can adjust it because it's the heading and it was not already adjusted. Okay, so you have to be very careful on that one, guys. What did I do? So let me just undo this, just like that. Okay, good. So the next thing that you're supposed to do actually is to, let's see, step number 16, save your spreadsheet as Tawara 1 underscore followed by your center number and candidate number. Okay, so let's save it. Save as. So in the current folder, we're going to save it as Tawara 1 underscore ZM 556 underscore 0001. Okay, and notice if we're told to save it as a spreadsheet, so we're told to save your spreadsheet. Okay, so we're not going to save it as CSV this time. We'll save it as an Excel workbook. Okay, so it's going to be saved as a spreadsheet. Right, so next thing that we're supposed to do is to go with step number 17, and I'll do step number 17 in the next video. So I'll see you in the next video just in a short while.